You can do what you want to, you can say what you want to, but I promise I can make sure you don't do it again. And that was my personality in prison.
Mike Tate wasn't sure what awaited him after he was released from prison, but it was almost a guarantee he wouldn't get a job because of his criminal record. One man in Burlington has taken it upon himself to change the fate of Tate and other ex-offenders.
When you're born, you start off in garments that are made from textiles, and when you die, you are buried in textiles.
30 Minutes started investigating the ghost of what used to be one of the most powerful industries in North Carolina. But what we found was a generation of Americans fighting to keep the Made in America label. Would you say that the textile industry in North Carolina is hanging on by a thread?
It's got to feel like it's survival of the fittest, and we just got to be around for the long term.
We always have far more animals than we should have.
Shelters nationwide are overcrowded, to the point that multiple dogs are forced to live together in one kennel. Euthanasia is the current solution, but we found a different answer in a place you wouldn't expect.
It's great, actually, because it's almost like becoming a family.
A program where men save dogs just as much as dogs save men.
I'm David Hodges.
I'm Sophie Nielsen Colding.
I'm Mallory Lane. Those stories right now on 30 Minutes.
In one of the most dangerous corners of Burlington, there sits an oasis. What used to be a club where gunshots rang out nightly is now a place of worship. But some of the men who now go there to pray are the same ones who went there to party. That's because of Phil Bowers. He used to be a frat brother at Georgia Tech, then a businessman. Now, his brothers are ex-convicts. He not only works with them, but finds work for them, when many of them thought there was nothing left.
I told him, I said, if God don't change me, I'm gonna kill all y'all when I get out. It got so bad in prison, man, and I tell you no lie. I used to cover my windows up in a total dog, listening to rock and roll, thinking it got to the point where I was like, man, you think it's so evil, you gotta be the Antichrist.
Michael Tate only had one plan when he was sent to prison: to be king of the jail yard. He made his intentions known quickly to his correctional officers and fellow inmates.
They kept me in the room for 8 years. They said that I was too violent for general population, so.
Do you think you were?
Yeah, I was.
Tate was sent to a military-style boot camp after stealing 2 cars in less than a year. Fed up with his punishment, he decided to escape with a fellow co-defendant and find a house to hide in.
I already told him, when we go in the house, whoever in there dies. Point blank, they die. Because I had planning this out for a long time. When we went in there, we waited for them. They came back. And my co-defendant just gave me a look like, please don't do it.
He says they decided only to tie up the homeowners to get a head start on what became a 3-hour high-speed chase, ending at the gates of Fort Bragg. Tate received 10 years in jail for kidnapping and grand theft auto.
I had set in my mind, I'm in prison. There's other people just like me in here, so I'm letting people know from the gate, from the time I step in here. You can do what you want to, you can say what you want to, but I promise I can make sure you don't do it again. And that was my personality in prison.
And for a while, that was his personality out of prison as well. After 10 years, Tate was released from jail, but he couldn't get a job because of his criminal record. Around 30% of former prisoners in North Carolina are reincarcerated within 3 years of their release, and Tate thought he might be one of them, until he met Phil Bowers.
I went to an employment agency up here, and due to the fact that I had a felony, they didn't want to really work with me. But she told me she had read an article in some local magazine, and so she gave me his contact information. I called him.
It's heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking to look at a man in the eyes and see hopelessness. It's heartbreaking, and I've done it numerous times. They sit and it's just dead. I don't even know how to respond to that. It's heartbreaking. So when they start clicking to thinking, you know, I can stand up as a man because I have a place here and I can be heard here, and yeah, it brings me a lot of happiness.
In 2008, Bowers started Sustainable Alamance, a Christian-based nonprofit that helps ex-offenders get back on their feet. From hands in cuffs to hands in prayer, he finds his men jobs when no one else will.
We sort of watch to see, do they participate in the meetings. When they've been there a few weeks and show that they're willing to come, we'll find a day labor job for them. We'll have some furniture that needs moving. We'll have some yard work that needs to be done somewhere, and we'll put a rake in their hand and say, have at it. And then you'll find out, do they want to work?
You know, get him out there for a couple of days, 8 hours, see how he do, because it's easy to say I want to work. And me and Phil did some day labor. I picked up a landscaping job, and it was good, but it just went under. Then I went another job with care home. It went under. So I was like, good gracious.
Did you think you had the bad touch or something like that, or what's going through your head at this point?
Oh, I got this saying, I just can't win.
But Tate's luck turned when he found employment at Piedmont Metals with the help of Sustainable Alamance. For Bowers, their success is about more than just a job. Rooted in his Christian values, he wants to make sure their head and their heart are in the right place before they find work, and that they've made amends with themselves and with others.
The poster child would probably be Tommy Purcell. And the reason I say that, we've had other guys that are very successful with their work and this kind of stuff, but the real success with Tommy has been he's put his family back together.
Because last decade I had 5 DUIs, driving my license revoked, unauthorized use. I should have had felony. I should be in prison. I literally should be in prison for life.
After more DWIs than he can count on his 2 hands, Tommy Purcell had not just lost his driver's license, but his job and the love of his daughters.
And us 3 were never again together until last summer.
It was the strain he was putting on his family that Purcell says drove him to get sober, and he credits Sustainable Alamance with giving him the confidence to put his life back together. 3 years into Bowers' program, he's walked Christine down the aisle and has fulfilled Lindsay's lifelong dream.
Here it is. Here's what she sent me 2 weeks ago, guys. I couldn't be happier. All my life I prayed to go to Carolina. Now I'm here. All my life I wanted a relationship with my father. Now I'm happy. God is good. Ain't that cool? He is good, man.
Along with his rekindled relationships, Purcell also has a steady job maintaining properties in the Elon area. But for Bowers, finding opportunities for these men is a constant struggle against what he considers a broken system.
I heard these stories, and that's just not acceptable. You know, you're going to prison because you can't pay, and you can't earn the money because you've got the record, and you know, so you're in this trap, just round and around and around. I said that just can't be, and nobody was really doing anything about it in Alamance County, so I guess I said, well, why not me?
This place where Tate and Purcell started their revival runs the only program in the community that specializes in finding ex-offenders work after the North Carolina Department of Corrections cut funding for the Regional Job Development Program. But the funding source for Sustainable Alamance is also starting to run dry. It has cost you something, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, my wife and I, since I quit the jobs to do this, we've just had to live off our retirement fund 10 years earlier than we hoped to. So, yeah, and so it's just not going to be here.
Money never used to be an issue for Bowers. As a business executive, he was allowed to travel the world on the company credit card. But Bowers says when the textile industry began outsourcing jobs abroad, he decided to leave. After searching for another calling, he met the ex-offenders with no jobs, struggling to pay probation fees, child support, and other financial hurdles. Now he's invested everything he has left, teaching the men of Sustainable Alamance.
He would tell me some things, how to approach co-workers that want you to do all the work, the little frustration from that. You know, he taught me how to deal with all that. While normally, if I didn't have that information, it might have went worse.
Tate now says he mentors others in his neighborhood about staying out of trouble. But he gives the most attention to his 3 boys.
Because I feel as a parent, one of my jobs is to raise my kids to be better than I am now. You know what I'm saying? So I have to teach them these things. You know, I have to tell them about my life. You know, this is what I've been through.
It's harder to make that transition than I knew it was, and that most people believe it is. So again, for most of us with the backgrounds we have, we would think, well, listen, man, you're giving them help, you're giving them a job, they're changing their life, they're doing this kind of stuff. What's the big deal? It's decades of inertia going the other way.
Bowers says that 9 in 10 of the men who start Sustainable Alamance don't end up sticking with the program. And after we thought this story was finished, Mike Tate became one of them. According to Tate, it started with an angry exchange involving the workplace. And Bowers says he felt like Tate was jeopardizing the brand of Sustainable Alamance. So he recommended he be removed from his job. And he was. After 3 years, Tate quit Sustainable Alamance.
Just breaks your heart, but you can't go too crazy over those. It's going to happen. But I believe most of the time these guys will show back up. They'll need the help. They'll recognize something, and they're welcome back.
30 Minutes will return in a moment.
When life's this hard, it's no wonder 7,000 students drop out every school day. Visit boostup.org and help kids in your community stay in school.
It used to be a point of American pride, clothing labels that said, "Made in Burlington, North Carolina." But those labels disappeared along with the mills as manufacturing went overseas to China and other countries. But if you look closer, you might see some of that past in the future of Alamance County.
You might get very shocked if you happen to be driving through and you come upon this little village and everything is like it is in 1880. It's like, what is going on?
On the outskirts of Burlington, North Carolina, along the east bank of the Haw River, sits, frozen in time, Glencoe Mill Village. What used to be a general store is now a museum that tells the story of the families who first settled around the mill.
The mills were built right next to the railroad.
Kathy Berry is the co-director of the Textile Heritage Museum. Why is it important that people know about the history of the textile industry in Alamance County?
I think it's fascinating. You see this little mill village right here? This was one of the first. And then other mill villages also were built. And this whole thing became the city of Burlington. And I think that's what built up the county.
I know that there were a couple families that were kind of in charge of the entire industry here in Alamance County. Who are those people?
Corey's, we have the Holtz, and then Love, he was with Burlington Industries.
Those big industry names ended up in big letters on big buildings at Elon University. One of those buildings is the Corey Business Center, where Jim Barber is the chair of the economics department at the Love School of Business.
The industry took off. Spencer Love was largely responsible for a great deal of it. And when he founded Burlington Industries, that kind of set the tune for everybody else. There were inventions that were done here. Pantyhose were invented here. Crew socks, so on. But it got to the point where firms could go somewhere else and hire cheaper labor and make just as good a sock.
So the economic winds shifted. In 1954, the owner of Glencoe Mill shut it down.
He just kind of closed it up, locked the door, and walked out. There are no factory jobs, it seems, after the mills have closed.
This 19th century loom is an artifact left over from an industry that died long ago, or so it may seem. Weaving yarn into fabric isn't altogether extinct here in Alamance County.
My grandpa's worked here, my grandmother, aunt, brother. I've had lots of family throughout the years that's actually been at this plant.
For more than 25 years, Bo Crisco has been learning about yarn, fabric, and the machines that transform one into the other. He said he considers himself one of the lucky ones, one of the few still working in one of the last plants. If your kids said, "Dad, I want to go into textiles," what would you say?
I would probably try to talk them out of it. We've taken over a 10% cut in pay, actually a 20% cut in pay, lost a lot of benefits where, at one time I had as many as 4 weeks of vacation time, and now it's nothing, no vacation time.
At all?
At all right now.
So the older you get, the more experience you have, you know how to run every one of these machines in here, the less you get paid.
That's the way it's going right now, but we hope that's going to change.
When Bo first started working here, he said there were machines like this one, from wall to wall. Today, half of this room is empty.
Well, I tell the employees up front, I have to stand and look at them eye to eye, and I tell them, our goal is to definitely, get you back as close as possible to your previous pay scales, get as many benefits back as possible, but our number one goal is to make sure we have a job here tomorrow for you guys and next week and the next year.
Marvin Gaines is Bo's boss and the co-owner of Burlington Technologies. In his more than 20 years of management in the textile industry, he's seen the good and the bad times.
The problem we've seen is when there's growth, it's really spotty. It comes real hard and heavy for maybe 2 or 3 months, and then it kind of slows down. I've taken layoff weeks. I've asked my managers to take them. Everybody from the $8 an hour guy up to the president of the company have had to take layoffs with this company.
So are we just in part of the economic cycle where it's up and now then it went down, and are we going up again?
Sure, of course it'll go back up again. Of course it will. It's in the nature of things to change. The days of doing things the way we've always done them are over. Someone else is doing them the way we've always done them.
And there's somebody in a factory in China who might be able to do your job for half of what you make. Do you think that your job will still be here in 20 years?
Sure, yeah. Some, but I don't think it'll ever be back to the way it once was, say in the 80s and 90s. Whenever you see your friends that you've worked with for 20 or 30 years, losing their job, it was crying, there was sadness, and this company go out and another company come in, morale would pick up. And then that company go out and another company come in, so it's up and down. Right now I think we're somewhat up.
I think it's hit bottom, hopefully. I think it's hit rock bottom, but it's just a shell of what it was 15, 20 years ago.
Do you hope that the only way to move now from here is up?
I think it has to go anywhere. It has to go up.
Burlington Technologies was recently awarded a $120,000 grant and a government contract to make military pants. In return, Gaines's company has to bring back at least 110 jobs. But what are they going to do in 4 years when that contract expires?
Do you suppose the military is going to stop making pants anytime soon?
Once we get this one contract, our goal is to have 2 or 3 contracts behind that contract, as well as looking at some consumer type goods that we would make out for people.
In a city that brought so much innovation during the height of American textiles, Burlington Technologies is able to hold on to that vision and continues to bring innovation to an age-old industry.
If you want 30 yards, we'll make you 30 yards of a custom color, custom pattern. That's not something the Chinese or Asian or South America wants to mess with, because you have to ship it overseas.
Textiles as previously practiced in Alamance County, destined to fail. Textiles practiced in new ways may succeed.
30 Minutes will return in a moment.
Beautiful, isn't it?
You expect options everywhere else. Why not with your medical treatment? Talk with your doctor to explore all your options and find what's right for you. Visit ahrq.gov.
Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. Go to discovertheforest.org.
Every year, about 6 million animals are brought into shelters nationwide, and some of those animals come to the Burlington Animal Shelter, where overcrowding is one of its biggest problems. 30 Minutes found a program that may be the answer to the shelter's cries for help, and it doesn't cost the taxpayers a single penny. A solution that changes lives, one dog at a time.
It's a perfect day for a walk in the park, and this afternoon, that's exactly what Alfred Bobbitt and Remy are doing.
Hey, Hill, come on.
But what you don't know is that this walk in the park is a far cry from where Bobbitt and Remy typically train, just 5 minutes down the road, behind a barbed wire fence.
No playing right now. Come here.
Bobbitt is serving 35 to 42 months at the Forsyth Correctional Center for trafficking cocaine. Bobbitt is a part of New Leash on Life, a North Carolina Department of Corrections program that pairs inmates with dogs that were once behind bars themselves.
Go through what that first day is like, meeting the dogs for the first time.
Pretty much we do a lot of bonding. One, to get the dog to be able to trust me, which actually happens over a week or two basis. You know, it doesn't happen off gate. We do a lot of walking, playing, treating, you know, let them know this is where the treat's at, this is where the fun at. Just let them know that he can trust me.
Trust, something Remy didn't know before this program. The Forsyth Humane Society rescued Remy from an overcrowded shelter that euthanizes unadoptable dogs. From there, Remy joined the New Leash on Life program, where he was paired with Bobbitt.
Remy was a special case, actually. He likes to hug. Remy loves a lot of affection. And he's kind of shut down. So he would always come up on me, and I would just hold him sometime, you know what I'm saying? Just let him know, hey, I got you, we're gonna be all right. So the trust came from a lot of affection.
The dogs learned to trust their handlers.
Yeah.
But that's not all they learn. During our visit to the prison, we got to watch them practice for the family dog evaluation, their final test before they can graduate from the program. After only 4 weeks, these dogs have learned all the normal dog tricks and one that may not be so normal. Listen. It's pretty quiet. These dogs are being prepared for life with a family, which means learning manners like not barking. The inmates work with the dogs 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, making sure they're the perfect candidate for adoption.
This program, you've not only made friends with the dogs, you've made friends with other prisoners too.
Yes.
What is that kind of like? What is your chemistry with the guys?
It's great, actually, because it's almost like becoming a family. Because, you know, if you notice, you hear us say your daddy or your daddy this, your daddy, it's becoming a family. It's like we're brothers in here, and those are our kids. So we take care of, if one of the brothers are not home, the nephew or the niece is in good hands because the uncle is here.
Randy Scott is one of those uncles. On August 26, 1988, Scott was sent to prison for murder in the first degree. But today, Scott says he's a different man.
Heel, let's go. Heel.
In North Carolina, the punishment for first-degree murder is either the death penalty or, in Scott's case, life in prison. His dog Marie was found abandoned on the side of the road as a puppy, and just like her trainer, this program gave her that second chance at life.
That second chance doesn't come around too often.
but it's something the dogs here at the Burlington shelter need. Last year, the shelter took in almost 8,000 animals. Nearly 70% were put down.
We always have far more animals than we should have.
What is that, when it comes to the decision, what do we do with the animal after they've been here the maximum time that they can?
When time's up.
When time's up, what's that process? How do you make that decision for who?
Well, first of all, it's not an easy decision. It's not something that we make very lightly.
Burlington Animal Services Outreach Coordinator Laura Michael says the decision between life and death is based on medical condition and behavior. And for some dogs, manners aren't their strongest suit.
What do you do with those dogs?
It depends on how it's coming to us. Will depend on what happens to it. Sometimes, it just doesn't work out, and we're not going to take the risk of being responsible for something happening that we know about and we can prevent, certainly. If we feel like it's just not a good candidate, then we do have to euthanize it.
One of the reasons a dog in the shelter could be put down is because of aggression. Danny Raleigh was put behind bars for the same reason. Raleigh's aggression led to his arrest 8 years ago. He was charged with assault with a deadly weapon and drug and alcohol-related charges.
In the beginning, I was, streetwise, I was a rough person. I grew up rough, I put it like that. I was a boxer, I used to fight, so it was in me, go with that first. I can take a dog, if it's aggressive, I can calm it down. That's me. I was aggressive. If I only knew then, now, what I know now then, I probably wouldn't even be here. But, life dealt me this hand, I had to deal with it. So the program itself has shown me how to care.
Do you have a dog that's been your favorite?
Good. Oh, man.
You've had so many.
I've had so many, and all of them are so special. Everyone at that time is my baby, and I treat them like they're my baby.
And it really is kind of like having an actual baby, because
it is like it's like having a kid that you raised, and now you're sending it off. It's going home or to school now after what you've done for it, and it makes you feel good.
New Leash on Life provides the chance for an escape from the gates of an overcrowded shelter or from the walls of a prison cell.
Will you take what you've learned here into your life outside of here?
Yeah. I don't see myself ever forgetting this. I know what I've learned here, I'm going to need out there. Patience, understanding. It's giving me a calmness that I've never had. And I'm going to need that out there in that world when I do get out.
And it helps you not only in relationships with animals, but with people too.
With people also. I've learned to accept people for who they are and hope they accept me for who I am. I know I've made mistakes. Give me a chance to do something, good, to do something right. That's all I'm asking is a chance.
That's all for this edition of 30 Minutes. Please join us next time.
It got so bad in prison, man, and I tell you no lie. I used to cover my windows up in a total dog, listening to rock and roll, thinking it got to the point where I was like, man, you think it's so evil, you gotta be the Antichrist.
Nothing, no vacation time.
At all?
At all right now.
So the older you get, the more experience you have, you know how to run every one of these machines in here, the less you get paid.
That's the way it's going right now, but we hope that's going to change.
I can take a dog, if it's aggressive, I can calm it down. That's me. I was aggressive. If I only knew then, now, what I know now then, I probably wouldn't even be here.